Hey, Jason here from Spiritualbabies.net. For a while now, we've been running a small series called 10 Questions, which we ask 10 questions related to what made a person leave their faith in the New Testament. For about time, I did one myself. If you are interested in making one of these videos, contact me through the comments below or via my Facebook page and PM me, and I'll get in touch with you and we can make this happen. It's super easy. You can just record yourself on a cell phone or on your webcam. I'll send you the questions and you send me the video and then I put it all together. And so the 10 questions. Question number 1. How long ago did you lose your faith in the New Testament? It was in 2012. Simple one. When you began your journey, what was your faith? Did you lose your faith in Jesus at the same time? So I suppose that depends on how you define journey. I wasn't brought up in a religious household. We were forced to go to church by the local boys' brigade. So if you wanted to be part of the boys' brigade, you had to go to Sunday school. And that's Sunday school. I learned about the New Testament and the Old Testament stories. That said, I always was aware of some greater being. And on my way to school, I'd talk to whatever was in control and in charge. I've kind of made little promises, if I'm particularly good, can I get this? Or, can you make this happen for me? But I hadn't put a name to it. And even at the time when we were forced to go to Sunday school, I was aware that this was a process that I needed to go through. This was a process I needed to go through to get what I wanted. My real, I suppose, adult journey started when I was in my 20s, and I started going to a Baptist church, and I got kind of into it. So I went through the full immersion baptism. I started running the youth club, and started studying an awful lot, and did that for a few years. And then I started traveling, and the more I traveled, the less important that part seemed to be. And I started to box up that part of my life and eventually just bricked it up completely. And then a few years ago, I decided to try and open the door again to a relationship with God, and made a simple declaration one October evening that if you're out there, make yourself known, and if you do, I'll do whatever it takes to get to know you and to engage in a relationship with you and be a good person. Just let me know that you're out there, and that's, I suppose, the beginning of the journey. Question number 3. What events led you to question the New Testament? All right, so I guess, so I found myself on the balcony. I was making this declaration, and at that point, in the high street, if you like, of shops for spiritualism, the church was really only the only one open. I hadn't considered Judaism. I hadn't considered Hinduism or Buddhism. You're just, you're brought up in a certain environment, and Christianity is the only option. So obviously that was where I went looking. So I went to the local, there's a massive Bible shop in the middle of Dublin. There's only one, and it's big, and it caters for many different people. I got a couple of Bibles and started going through them, and that led me to study some of the Hebrew and Greek, and that led me to looking on the internet for Hebrew lessons, which led me to the Messianic field and to ideas like Shabbat and the feasts, which the more I read, the more I realized that this stuff hasn't gone away and we should keep hold of that. And then there was a period where I really engaged in that, and my wife really engaged in that, and it felt very organic, that it was the right thing to do. I think that kind of happened from about not 8 months. We were in and out in 8 months. I'd say about 6 months. But the issue was that also started me reading what we call the Old Testament, the Tanakh. And the more I read the Tanakh, the more the end of the book wasn't making sense. So the events that led me to start questioning the New Testament, I guess the main event was me starting to read the Old Testament and read the Tanakh, which, although we do in the church, we really only look at the bits that suit. We look at the Psalms and the prophets and the cherry pick stuff that suits the agenda that we'll read. And when we read it with the preconceived notion of what it means. So we're told what it means. The pastor will stand up and they'll say, and this verse is a great verse about our Messiah. And then you read the piece from the Psalms, and the two and two to go together. And next time you read that, will you read really is what the pastor told you it meant, rather than what it actually means. So the end of question 3, I would say, the Tanakh led me to question the New Testament. How did it make you feel when you were questioning the validity of the New Testament? It wasn't so bad at the beginning. I came from a place where I was already questioning the New Testament. Anyone who goes into the Messianic side of Christianity and that movement, the Hebrew roots movement, is already questioning the New Testament, because the New Testament really is a very Sunday church Christian concept. It doesn't involve things like Shabbat. It doesn't involve kosher food. It doesn't involve any form of Judaism. It's bleached of Judaism and of the practices of Judaism and of Jesus being Jewish. So as soon as you start looking at the Messianic or Hebrew roots movement, you're already questioning the New Testament. So it was a very easy transition for me to start asking more difficult questions about the New Testament. What effect did your leaving Jesus have on your personal relationships with your family and friends? Well, my wife's been on board for the whole time, and that's a complete blessing. And that's really an amazing gift that we have walked this road together hand in hand for the whole time. Very lucky. I've seen a lot of people who have proper issues with their family, with their friends, and specifically with their partners and siblings. But this is too much for the relationship to deal with. It's heartbreaking. Very lucky. Now, so when we started to ask questions of the people that we were spending time with about the validity of the New Testament, about the validity of the idea of Jesus or Yeshua being a Messiah, or indeed of a dying Messiah, any dying Messiah. There was an initial period of, it's a very good question, but here are the answers, when the answers really didn't match, didn't work. And then very quickly, the door was shut. And I guess the one saving grace was that we weren't in that room very long. I mean, it was a period of about 8 months from starting to read the Tanakh and finding out the practices that God really wants his people to undertake, and leaving the New Testament completely. So although we really liked the people, and to be honest, my door's always open. I enjoyed spending time with the people that we spent time with. They made that choice to not remain in contact, but if they change their mind, it'll be good. Because we're humans, and we should be able to have a dialogue and discuss things without that meaning you can't talk anymore. I don't think that's right. So, for me, it was kind of okay, but I know for some people it can be very painful. I guess on that side of things, I'm very lucky. 6. Is your understanding of a relationship with God different now than before? Utterly different. when I speak to God, when I pray to the Creator now, I don't have to do it in someone else's name. I don't have to shout for a window or reach for a door. I don't have to look at him through the filter of someone else's message or existence. He created me and everything that I come in contact with. We're all equal parts of his creation, and we all have the same. A tree a tree lives because he allows it to live. I live because he allows me to live, and I don't have to go through or pray through or name anyone except for him when I'm speaking to him. Whereas in my life to this point, I've been told that's the case. That if you want to talk to your Father in heaven, you have to do it through somebody else. He doesn't say that at any point, not one time. He says, return to me, return to me, return to me. And so finally I did. Question number 7. What would you say to someone who has questions about the New Testament? I'd say engage in those questions. I often write when I'm online that a faith that is blind is no faith at all. And believing in a set of books and letters that don't hold up to your own doubts it's dangerous, isn't it? I mean, nobody would build a house that they intended to sleep in on a swamp. They'd test that swamp. they'd prod that with a stick. They'd throw stones. They'd make sure that if they were going to put a foundation down, that foundation wasn't going to sink and they weren't going to drown in their sleep. So how much more so for your relationship with God and your salvation? Obviously, my perspective now of salvation is utterly different to what it was when I was a Christian. And to be saved is utterly different now to what it was when I was a Christian. But if you are a Christian and you feel that you want to be saved by God in the Christian sense, then wouldn't you make absolutely sure that you understood everything the New Testament said and that you were exploring those questions until you were sure? And if they were wrong, if the questions came back and they couldn't be answered or they didn't make sense, you'd throw them out. You'd say, all right, this question doesn't make sense. I mean, the answer can't be right, and keep searching for the answer and adjust what you understand to be true. Chip away all the rubbish until you come up with something that's pure at the end. So what I would say would be keep going, keep tackling it, and don't stop. 8. Were there people who helped you on your journey at any point? Tons of them. Weirdly, the whole lot of those people were Messianic people. They'd introduced me to different ideas, different teachers who maybe aren't Messianic, weren't Messianic, but opened up my eyes and ears to different things. My now good friend John Evander over at truth2u.org had a whole slew of shows which we ate and made me think in a slightly different way. Rabbi Tova Singer, who I'm lucky enough to record with now, Rabbi Michael Skobek, who I'm lucky enough to record with now. Their adherence to just the text, the parts of the Bible where God actually speaks, that's something that's often overlooked in Christianity. Of the parts of the Bible God actually speaks in. God doesn't speak in the whole of the New Testament. He doesn't say a line. There are no attributable lines that God speaks in the whole of the New Testament. Isn't that amazing? That in this huge message that we're supposed to have gotten from God, that this is how your soul is going to go to heaven, and so you can spend the rest of your eternity with your Creator. He doesn't actually say anything. Wow. But he speaks a whole lot, and that's enough. And through listening to Rabbi Singer and Rabbi Skobek, I read what God had to say and what he had to say and what my church said he had to say, were two very different messages. What is the best thing about being where you are now And what's the most challenging? Well, actually, I'm kind of down the path a bit from there's an awkward patch when you leave, that you're trying to figure out where you're going and where you've been, and your friends have moved on, or they've cut you off, or you've got new friends and you're not really sure, and am I a Jew now? Am I converting? Should there be a no-hide? What is a no-hide? Should I just give up altogether? Is the whole thing rubbish? There are all these questions that go through your mind. And where I am now, I'm comfortable. I have my talak. I'm lucky enough to talk to a lot of people I respect every week, and ask the questions on my viewers' behalf that I seek answers for myself. The best thing about where I am at the moment is that I'm gifted to spend time with people and ask the right questions, and I'm also gifted to spend time with people all over the world and learn from them. So I've many friends on Facebook, really close friends that I consider family, and I can engage with them on a daily basis, and that's a huge gift. I'm very glad to live in the world that we live in with the technology we have that allows that to happen. Weirdly, the most challenging thing is the same thing. And my friends are all on, all on the internet, and they all live many miles away. And I hope that one day I'll be able to just leave the house, walk down the road, knock on someone's door, and have a cup of tea, and we can sit down and talk about the scripture that way. And for groups of people to do that within where I live would be phenomenal. 10. If you could go back and change one thing, would you, and what would it be? I've heard a few people say that they're glad they went through the Christian process because now they have a viewpoint that means that they can understand other people that are doing the same thing. Then they can argue the point knowing both sides of the fence. And I get that. But given the choice, if I could at 16 have come into the knowledge that, the truth I have now of one creator and one's enough, and to maybe have like the last 25 years of my life with this understanding, if I could do that, I probably would. But that's the choice I would have made at 16. Now, you can't really change. Every day people make mistakes. I make mistakes, and you have to decide how to not make that mistake again. So, just changing one thing in your whole life, I don't know if that would really do me any good. I'd still make a whole bucket full of mistakes. But the great thing is, we were told that if you make a mistake, you pick yourself up, you repent of it, and you carry on and move forward. That's something we all have to do in our own way. So that's it. They are my 10 questions, and I hope you got something from them. If you are interested in doing your own 10 questions, as I said, contact me on Facebook. And if you like this video, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, share with your friends, and hopefully, God willing, I'll see you all again soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.